thought it would be good use of our time to go ahead and have a presentation. Tell me which item the presentation is on. Is it overall? Just a status report then. Okay, great. So why don't you identify yourselves for the record, and then let's get on with the presentation then.
Good morning. This is Jim Clark, Director of Federal Relations. Because of the fact that the ad hoc has not met in the last 2 weeks, we have a number of items up on the agenda for you today to go through with a number of departments. I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea what lays ahead in the weeks ahead. It appears that in addition to having our normal ones, there may be a possibility that we're going to hear back from HUD very shortly on our Community Development Block Grant application. That may require us coming back with some modifications to that, and that would be next week. We also will be delineating an economic recovery zone that will require the ad hoc and the council to designate certain areas that will be eligible for funding for that. The $1.5 billion discretionary transportation program called Tiger will be coming to you, and there'll be a number of energy-related grants that will be coming to you in the next week or two. Some good news. University of Southern California has decided to use one of its National Institute of Standards and Technology grants to apply for a marine research center at the Port of Los Angeles. So we're very pleased about that and hope that that will happen. We've also started to receive a number of award notices, and so in the future you'll be needing to plan time also for hearing about those award notices. An issue that we've got coming up as well too is that as you may know, with these federal grants, the money from these grants are reimbursed. The reimbursement basis could be as long as several months for that, and so as such, the city will have to be responsible for putting up what's called front funding on a number of these projects. We estimate that amount to be $20 to $26 million that the city will need to have in a revolving fund. I believe in the next week or so, the CAO's office will be coming forward with a report on how the city would manage that, which will be difficult given our budget situation. On June 22nd, the Office of Management and Budget published regulations on how to report jobs and what jobs to report. We're only required to report direct and indirect jobs that are created or retained. Those are jobs that we directly create or retain from our programs, or if we have sub-grantees that they create or retain. We're not required to report what's called induced jobs, which would be jobs that might be created because we create jobs over here and those people go out and spend money and other people get hired. As a result of that, we're not required to report that. Those reports will start in July, that we have to keep track of those this month, but the first actual reporting period for the federal government will be October 10th. And the last item that I have is that on the agenda today, under the last item on the Housing Department report relative to Neighborhood Stabilization Program, it's come to our attention that the Housing Authority has also planning to submit a grant application for NSP2. There is a representative here today that available to talk about that should you wish to add that to the agenda, or you could schedule it for next week. The grants themselves are actually due on the 17th, so I'll leave that to your discretion to do. And that's my report, and I'll turn it over to Bill.
Good morning, Council Member. Bill Cranes with the CAO's office. I will give you a brief overview of the project management side of the ARA project, ARA Grants project. First of all, we have a first of a series of new ARA status reports that are available. I've provided a handout to you. It looks like this. You'll be seeing something similar to this in a few.
Hold it up again.
Hopefully you have a package.
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, thank you.
Does everybody have a package? Mr. Rosendahl is here and Ms. Hahn is here. I'm going to make sure they have packages too.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr.
They were put on everybody's desk so they can follow along.
Thank you. The report, although it's sort of a distance, but it looks like this, you'll begin to see these kinds of reports as well as some dashboards and additional reports on statistics from our database, which you should begin to get probably at next Friday's meeting. In addition to that, we've made an extensive effort beginning Tuesday of this week, and we're getting all the information in today and over the weekend. We'll be working on basically doing a quality assurance review of the database on all the grant projects, the opportunities, the awards, the applications that are still outstanding. And that, again, will provide you with some additional dashboards and reports, I believe, for next Friday's meeting. I think you'll benefit from that. We are also meeting with an advisory group to identify automated grants research and management software for the city. We have met once. We'll be meeting a second time, or for the second time this Wednesday, with ITA, with the CLA's office, with the controller, with our office, and other departments. And you'll begin to hear some status reports on where that advisory group is going. In addition to that, there is another handout today, and it's the one with the City of Los Angeles seal on the front. And this is a life cycle.
Excuse me for a second. Mr. Rosendahl, do you want to ask a question right now? Yeah, Mr. Rosendahl.
Good morning. Thank you for this report. Is it now online?
It will be this afternoon.
Okay, it will be this afternoon, so people can interact with this.
Yes,
okay.
It will be on both the intranet and the internet.
Okay, the second question is, do we have any sense of how much more funds back there that we could aggressively go after in this first stimulus package?
I'll defer to the mayor's office on that.
The report that I heard this morning on the television and the interview was that from the President's office that about 25% of all the stimulus money will be distributed within this year, and the additional remainder of it will be either in 2010 or beyond. So the majority of the money that actually gets distributed will be next year.
Okay, and the 25% that's this year, what percentage of that are we in Los Angeles looking like we're going to get?
Well, we know that we're getting $285 million in formula money, and so most of that has been guaranteed to us. The remainder now are the competitive grants, and we've just started hearing about the first awards, as I mentioned, and we'll be coming back to you after we go through the process. We're starting to get information like the first award we submitted in April for $250,000 for an NEA grant for the arts. We got an award for that. So we're hearing in July about something that we submitted in April.
And the remainder that are in competitive that you said that we might get this last part. Yeah,
right.
How much are we looking at?
Well, there's the $1.5 billion that's available for the Tiger, which is transportation. Each state is guaranteed or it gets $300 million. We're looking for somewhere around $150 million coming to this area for goods movement.
So periodically, this report that we get will tell us what we got, what we're still competing to get, and what we hope to get by the end of this year.
We're required under the transparency to be able to show the public not only what we've applied for, but what we've got. One of the problems is they don't necessarily tell us all the time when we don't get something. Right. So we hear that someone else got an award, and that pretty much tells us that we didn't get an award.
My last question, Madam Chair, is a lot of community groups have come to me in my district and have said, how can we participate in making suggestions? Because a lot of them have ideas and thoughts. What mechanism have we put in place that they can interact with?
A couple of things. One is by going on to the recovery site, the public recovery site, and seeing the opportunities and seeing the things that they're eligible for. I've done a fair amount of speaking to groups. In fact, I'm going to speak to another group of nonprofit organizations and telling them about the opportunity. There's really two ways in which they can do it. One is that there are a number of grants, not a lot, but there are a number of grants that are directly available to nonprofits to apply for. One of them today that we'll be dealing with is called Strengthening Communities. There were two parts to it, one in which local government could apply for and one that was available to only to nonprofits. So that's one way. The other way is a program where we get something like like energy efficiency in public housing, or we do something through workforce or whatever, where we subcontract with another nonprofit organization. So what we've tried to do whenever there's an opportunity for a nonprofit to participate, we think it helps strengthen our application competitively to be
What
able
I'd like to do is
that.
invite you to the 11th District. I'd like to put a town hall together
Be
and
happy
bring
to.
together the neighborhood councils, homeowner groups, not-for-profits, and let them hear the whole array of it, interact, and possibly they could help us figure out better strategies or add to our strategies.
Be happy
Do
to.
that?
And I did something down in the harbor area with the chamber down there about business opportunities, because there's a lot of businesses that also want to know, how do we get a part of this? How do we get to participate?
Good.
There are limited grants for businesses that are available, but again, there are opportunities to subcontract with businesses.
Okay, so I look forward to my office dealing with you and setting up a date where you can come out into the district and talk
Yes, sir.
to maybe 50, 60 different leaders of different groups.
Be happy to.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. That's a great idea. I'd like to maybe do the same kind of thing. But I think, again, kind of listening to the news this morning and kind of hearing this, President Obama seems to be losing a little popularity on this stimulus money, because it just has not seemed, and I know we probably haven't given it enough time, but I know that's been my frustration, is I'm not feeling like we're really putting people to work here in Los Angeles. A lot of the grants are, in my opinion, monies that we've budgeted for anyway, whether it's at the airport or the port. It doesn't feel like we've got this widespread putting people to work, and wondering if under the identify grant opportunity and make initial decision box, that we could, I know we're limited, constrained by kind of what we think fits into that box or not, but, I'm still looking for the grant that, that would fix sidewalks in Los Angeles and put unemployed people, young people to work fixing sidewalks. I'm looking for the grant that helps to fund, Conservation Corps to deconstruct homes where you hire people at $15 an hour and they begin to understand how to deconstruct homes and salvage building materials, which go to nonprofits that they can then resell. I'm just not feeling those kinds of grants coming into Los Angeles. And also summer jobs. I would have thought we would have tripled the number of summer jobs. Instead, we're getting less summer jobs in certain parts. I would have liked to have had 1,000 jobs in Watts this summer based on the stimulus package, and we don't. So, I'm still feeling, can we be more creative? Is there an opportunity? Are we really that constrained? Like, even when you look at the 5 working groups, I would think, Public Works would have been one of the working groups. Real public work infrastructure projects. You can begin to train people, and you can begin to fix some aging infrastructure like roads and streets in Los Angeles, make everybody happy. Can you imagine if we fixed every sidewalk in Los Angeles using someone who's unemployed, teaching them the skills it takes to repair a sidewalk? Boy, seems to me that would make Los Angeles so happy on so many levels. And these grants are just not feeling like they're getting down to really putting unemployed people back to work.
I'd like to, if I could, either with you or with some of your staff, to come by and spend some time and actually go through a number of these with you, because I think you'd see that there are those projects there.
I'm here. I sit in this committee every week. I approve these grants. I don't see legions of people in Los Angeles putting on hard hats and fixing sidewalks.
Right.
So you don't have to come by my office and explain.
You will. I'm saying to you, you will see that. You will see it. And those things are in the process of happening. And they'll start happening by November. But there is a certain frustration.
We're going to have every sidewalk fixed in Los Angeles?
For example, we're getting $118 million of money through the transportation, public works activity, and large portions of those are for street resurfacing and sidewalks. I mean, a large portion of that. Plus, we're doing the major project that we're doing out of that money is Harry Bridges Boulevard, which will be a big improvement in that, and we hope to do a kickoff with that very shortly to do that. But yeah, the same frustration that we're not seeing.
I'm saying this is not unique to me. A lot of people are feeling this.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm wondering, is it more because, again, we are constrained by the types of grants we're allowed to apply for, or can we try to be more creative?
Somewhat constrained, but we realize, particularly on these that are competitive grants, that job creation is one of the main criteria by which we're being evaluated on these. So we are trying to look whatever we can as to maximize the number of jobs that we can create with these competitive grants, because we know that's one of the scoring factors.
Right. But sometimes I think it's semantics, job creation versus putting unemployed people to work. You know, we're creating jobs sometimes for the same workforce that's already existing, which is good, but I don't feel like that was the intent of the stimulus package. I mean, we've got a lot of unemployed people that we need to figure out how to put back to work, because that's what stimulates the economy.
Sure.
So, somehow retrofitting urinals at DWP, it just didn't feel like that's, what we're talking about.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead. To your report.
I might say, Councilmember Rosendahl, I misspoke a little earlier.
You did.
On reflecting, this was on the website as of yesterday.
Okay.
So if constituents or your staff look for that right now, they will find this flow chart.
Great.
If I could just conclude, too, let me just give you an overview of the grant application process. Eight grants have been applied for since our last meeting of June 19th. A total of 60 grants have been applied for, which would total $694 million if we were funded for everything we requested. The total estimated grant awards to date, there are 11, which equal $289 million, and 4 grant applications will be submitted in the next week between now and the next ad hoc committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yes. Our next item, let's see. That was item number 1. Our next item is item number 2.
1A.
Oh, do you have some more?
1A.
1A? Okay, go ahead. Who's here on that item? You left me? Oh. My God. Okay, go ahead, please.
Olivia Mitchell from the Community Development Department, and we're here to report on the grant that we submitted this week, the Capacity Builds Grant under the ERA initiative. This is for $250,000 for a 2-year grant. Its purpose has 3 purposes, really. The first is to work with city employees to help them learn how to better reach out to the lowest income people, and to work with community agencies to do it. It very specifically says work with municipal employees. The second step is to work with community and faith-based organizations to help them reach a lower level of employees, the kind of people, of potential employees, the kind of people that the Councilwoman is speaking of. Our community-based agencies that are funded by CDD work with low-income people, but I think the intent of the stimulus program is to work with lower-income people and people who are long-term unemployed, and it is the assumption, this grant assumes, that both we as city employees and the agencies that we fund need some assistance in reaching out to these people. So we go 1, we train ourselves, 2, we train the agencies, and then 3, we provide specialized training to individual agencies. So our plan over the 2 years is to begin with ourselves and then in group workshops to work with community and faith-based agencies, whether they are funded by the city or not, and then 3, to provide individual technical assistance to agencies. The grant went in on Tuesday. We understand that the response will be to us in September, although I just heard that it looks like they're a little slower, and that we're scheduled to begin as soon as they come. Fortunately for us in community development, we have had an ongoing capacity build program that we've been running for the last 3 years and are already scheduled to do that again beginning in September. So if we get the money in September, we'll be ready to go. We'll be ready to go whether or not we get the money to work with our agencies. It is, as I said, $250,000 over 2 years and is competitive across the nation.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Ms. Mitchell?
Yeah, I just not real clear on the concept. You're spending money to train your own employees, which I would have hoped that you would have been trained by now to do just that, reach out to nonprofits and low-income people.
We are doing that, but this grant specifically says that they want to train municipal employees to go deeper into who we work with and to bring them in. It's a requirement of the grant itself to train your city employees, municipal employees, staff of elected officials, and then to train community agencies to go deeper, to go a little deeper than the creaming off the top.
And what's the ultimate goal of going deeper?
The ultimate goal is to bring into the R program jobs, people that we would not ordinarily reach.
And we reach them, and then what?
And bring them into the programs that fund the jobs. This does not fund the jobs. This program specifically says that we want to bring more people
So are there jobs
to the other services.
So just the services?
No, we want to bring them to jobs.
Are there jobs?
We're going to use the other R grants are funding the jobs programs. For instance, as he mentioned before, there are several grants that are going out for green jobs that are going to be set up. We think these will be new jobs, and we'll be able to help agencies work with people to get them ready for these new jobs. And this grant, as I said, specifically the capacity build grant, is to say that we assume that maybe you aren't reaching, it's probably much like Project 50 with the county. We've been working with the homeless, but there are some people who are the most desperate, and we need to learn to work with them. So we're responding to their directive.
Right.
We do feel we're experts in working with people.
See, I think that's what some of the problem is. These grants, we can only apply for certain grants, and they have certain criteria, which I think is part of the problem. So maybe this creates one job of a trainer. I mean, this does not stimulate the economy.
No, this is not set up to stimulate the economy in that way, to create the jobs. It is to make certain that we are funneling into the system the people that
Basically,
you were describing.
we have to comply with what it
Yes, this grant is set up to do this.
But yeah, it's another example of a grant that, I mean, we had to apply for it, and we have to comply with the requirements, but it doesn't really stimulate the economy. Okay.
Okay. Well, it was, okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Mitchell. All right. Okay. All right. The next item would be LAX, which is why you're excited about it.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. You want to know why?
Yeah.
The reason I'm excited about it is we really want to change that whole utility complex because it's old and decrepit and needed to be done, and we're planning to do it anyway, but to get a $23 million match from the federal government to the already agreed upon World Airport that they would come up with $23 million. Just means that the 60, or what is that? That's $46 million to do it. Half of it's coming from stimulus money. At least that's how I'm perceiving this. Is that the case?
Yeah, pretty much, yes. My name is Lisa Wellick. I'm with the Grants Administration Unit at Los Angeles World Airports. With me is Mr. Scott Hand, who is one of the project managers on the CUP project infrastructure. Let me just say, LAWA is preparing a grant application to the Department of Energy under the Combined Heat and Power Stimulus Opportunity. In reviewing the grant applications coming forth, we feel this is a particular match for the Central Utility Plant Replacement Project, as the grant opportunity is emphasizing replacement of chillers, improvements in thermal energy storage, which very much align with the objectives of the CUP project. We will also meet the requirement to initiate the very first stage of the project within the 120 days of grant award, which is anticipated in October. So we, and also with regard to the project itself, I mean, this is a project that has been in the planning stages for a number of years as the infrastructure does need to be replaced. But I would emphasize what we're, in analyzing this, there are components of the CUP project that were, I'd say, borderline in terms of whether or not they would be undertaken, and the funding from this grant would make those elements feasible, particularly some of the thermal energy storage components. So there is a benefit to receiving the additional grant infusion.
Well, timing is everything, obviously, and we're planning to do this anyhow, as Ms. Hahn and I have been talking about. We know it needed to be done. It's just decrepit and old, and the energy, needed to be redone, that whole facility. So I guess timing's everything. If we can get a match from the federal government on it, mazel tov to that idea.
I agree. It's just, again, we've already approved the budget for this within LAWA. I mean, it's come to our committee several times, the Central Utility Plant. So we were already doing this. It's nice to get this money, but I think, does it create jobs? I don't know how you can say that, but I probably shouldn't say that out loud on the microphone because we're being watched, but
Too late.
I know, too late for that. These jobs were already happening. We were already doing that. We were undertaking that as part of our modernization plan of LAX.
Okay. Well, one thing I can say is with regard to, any infusion in grants for our capital program, help us. It
helps us because it means the airlines and everybody are spending less money, but I don't know how you can characterize us creating jobs. We will have new jobs starting as a result of the construction. I think part of this too is with the thermal energy, what we're stating in the application as well. Yeah. What this will help is it barely pays for the consulting contracts.
Well, with some of this will help pay for a first phase, which will, in essence, allow us to implement elements of the project that were, again, borderline in terms of whether or not we would proceed with those, which in turn will have job creation benefits. So that's how this is being presented in the application.
That's our story. We're sticking to it.
Okay. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay.
Are you all done?
Excuse me?
Are you done?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And did you want to make a presentation also?
That's fine. No, he's here for any technical questions.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next, Janice, you'll be excited about the next one. It's Terminal Island Renewable Energy. Your name?
Good morning. Omar Mugadam, Bureau of Sanitation.
Okay. Please proceed.
We are applying for $7.1 million grant from Department of Energy's new category, which is waste to energy recovery as part of the deployment of the combined heat and power system. district energy system and waste energy recovery system. The project that we are introducing is an enhancement of a demonstration project that began on July 1st of 2008. The injection project began, and it's been very, very successful, and I'm proud to say that one of the key supporters of that project, the Council District 15, had been very satisfied, and I hope I'm not overstating that, with the performance of the initial experimental phase of the project. However, that initial success has given us the confidence to expand the project to its fullest capacity, permitted capacity, it will be done in collaboration with EPA Region 9 and Terralog Technology. As far as creating jobs, I can tell you this project in its initial stages has already created at least a dozen of jobs, at the San Pedro area. And in the enhancement of the project, which is an investment of $7.2 million, will create at least 24 more jobs in the area. In addition to that,
let me just interrupt you.
Let's stop on that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
What does this exact grant, what 24 jobs does this grant create?
Well,
that have not existed before?
Today the equipment that we have out there is leased equipment, the rentals. We are going for a permanent project. All the construction work that will be created in there as a result of new pumps, new safeties, new control system, new piping, everything. As you walk out there, you will see it's very temporary, because we didn't want to overspend city's money, I would say scarce money, before we have the confidence that the project is working well. And so the construction aspect is one thing. The other aspect that Bureau of Sanitation has creatively introduced here, that for at least the next 5 years, the project will be operated and maintained by private industry. Okay, and in this case, Terralog Technology.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a great project. I mean, I was skeptical, as you know, of the initial concept of this, injecting biosolids deep into the ground near my port. But it's a great energy efficient project. It's reduced truck traffic and pollution, because we were actually trucking those biosolids out to faraway regions. So we're definitely cutting down on pollution. It's a smart project, no question about it. So you're saying with this grant, we are going to be doing some more build out of that project, which will create good paying construction jobs.
Indeed.
About 24.
At least 24.
At least 24.
Because, in fact, we have not drilled the third well, which is required by EPA permit. We deferred that until the point in time that we had the confidence that the project is working well and is confined, I would say, within the framework that was established, and that has already established with EPA Region 9. That's why they're allowing us to go forward with the expansion of the project.
Let me ask one question. On the grant proposal sheet, it says there's no match required, but the CAO's grant spreadsheet shows that there's a match of 50%.
Well, there are obviously some in-kind contribution by the city, and we are talking about...
Is there a match required?
Well, Councilwoman Janison, we have already spent, for the first 2 wells as an example, we have spent city's money on those, $5.5 million. The answer to your question is no. No matching is required, no.
Why does the CAO spreadsheet show that there's a 50% match?
As I said, there are some initial expenses by the city for the demonstration phase that will keep those things in place. So those are in-kind contribution by the city. We do not need to add additional funding from the city's capital program other than the grant that we are
Can you clarify that? Because I'm not looking at the CAO spreadsheet, but that's in my notes.
Councilmember, I apologize. I was looking up this item in our spreadsheet. I'm sorry, what the question was again?
The question was, the grant proposal sheet submitted indicates there's no match requirement, but the CAO's grant spreadsheet shows that there is a match of 50%. Which is it?
Well, you know what, I'd have to go back and review that. We take all of our information on the spreadsheet directly from the grant opportunity from the federal government. So we try to keep up with that. I believe we have. So personally, I'd have to say that we erred on the correct side in saying there is a match. On the other hand, the departments are much more intimately involved in that grant opportunity. So if I could get back to you on that, I will go back to the opportunity and check that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Any further comments on this item?
I was just going to brag about all the environmental benefits of the project, including truck traffic reduction, including the greenhouse gas sequestration, NOx, carbon monoxide, and many other environmental benefits for the not only San Pedro area but globally. In addition to the, I would say, the immediate benefits in the region. The fact that, let me give you a number, 520,000 miles per year of the truck traffic is reduced. That has regional, I would say, implications.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to ask the fire department to come up next, and if you can, I'd like for you to report on D, E, G, and I. So everybody who needs to report on those items, come up now. So we'll bundle those together so that you can do it all at once, and then obviously say your name for the record, and then ID which item. So that's D like dog, G like goat, I'm sorry, D, E like elephant, G like goat, and I like ink. All right? So, thank you.
Morning, council members. How are you this morning? Chief Bursick, Assistant Chief Bursick with Homeland Security, and we can begin with D, which is the $5 million for the construction of the modular fire station for USAR 88. This is under the ARRA for fire station construction. The actual amount for the whole entire grant for the nation is about $210 million. And the two purposes of the specific grant are for firefighter safety and to increase or reduce response times for the fire department. It has about a 36-month completion to it, and they're actually looking for areas that have higher unemployment rates, which LA County would be one of those. And again, they're also looking at mutual aid considerations, and they're looking specifically for construction and renovations. There are some caveats with this grant in that it's $15 million per award, but it's $5 million per project. So we really had to look at that and figure out which projects would fit under that. The two projects that we're submitting under this are the USAR 88 fire station, a modular fire station for a total of $5 million, and the secondary project are a COOP continuity operations project for 5 fire stations, which would be an emergency generator system, basically backup communication systems for 5 fire stations throughout the city. Those fire stations, we are now reviewing all our fire stations in totality to see where we would put those so that we actually encompass the whole entire city and find the 5 most accurate fire stations for that if we actually receive the grant. I have Chief Kramer, Battalion Chief Kramer, to explain anything on specific items concerning the emergency generators, and I have Battalion Chief Weiss here for specifically the modular fire station. So we can do that one first, which is D.
Okay, great. Why don't you start with D then?
Okay, on this project, what we're trying to do is improve the facility. We're going to build basically a 15,000 footprint fire station. Is going to be modular in design so that we can get a quick turnaround on this as far as that goes. And I'll have a build out that will house our apparatus and auxiliary equipment that is with the response. The intent again is to have this completion within 36 months, and it should stimulate the local contractors after going through the city bid process.
Okay. Questions or comments? Mr. Rosendahl?
I think it's terrific, and it's at the same location on Sepulveda there to quickly get out.
Yes, and the reason why we're doing it there is because we're going to expand the existing buildings or add to the existing buildings and actually have a better response route. Currently, our USAR apparatus has to actually physically go through the parking lot, and it's housed separate from where the apparatus is. So this will provide the ability to provide diesel exhaust for that, give them their our own facility and be able to do a drive-through right onto Sepulveda Boulevard.
Appreciate that. And just a shout out to you guys with the fire we had in Sepulveda the past couple of days ago. I was there, and you guys were just fantastic. My community is extremely grateful that you were able to get it under control and put it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. No more further questions on D. Can we go on to E?
Yes.
Good morning, Bob Kramer, Battalion Chief, also with Homeland Security, and I noticed this morning in the paperwork they put me down as the project manager for this grant, which is interesting.
Are you the project manager?
Well, I am for one of the projects in the port, but I think it was a matter of convenience at the time, which is fine. I can speak to the issue. Well, this specific proposal regards continuity of operations and sustained operations in the event of a catastrophic incident. Chief Bursick referred to it already. It identifies money to equip 5 fire stations with rather substantial backup power generation for sustained operations, an above-ground fuel tank to supply that, additional backup communications infrastructure, a cache of radios, and the equipping of a space at the station to perform essentially command post operations for sustained operations in the event we have a catastrophic incident in that area. You're going to see this same type of project repeated a second time for the Port Security Grant, so it's actually down here twice.
Okay.
I think it's great.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. All right, and then let's see, that was E. Then we go on to G. Maybe
The next two items, actually G and I, are under, again, the ARRA for the Port Security Grant.
Yeah, all right, that's fine.
Okay,
Let me
and
just check. That's under port security also, even though it's regarding fireboats.
Correct.
Okay.
And-
So, go ahead.
Sorry. These two items actually referred to the port in general, and what we did is we actually vetted these items through the Area Maritime Security Committee, and we sat down as a region and looked at everything down in the port and made sure that it actually met the 5-year port-wide risk management and mitigation plan. So the items that we're actually putting forth on these are the radiation detectors for the fireboats at a cost of $325,000, and the other one is the port continuity of operations for $3,015,000.
Okay.
And the continuity of operations we've discussed, we can discuss it further if you need any more information on that one. Otherwise, we can go to the radiation detectors for the fireboats.
Okay. Questions or comments? Okay.
The continuity of operations project already discussed duplicates itself 3 times in the port at 3 port fire stations. The radiation detection project for the fireboats would equip our fleet with matching equipment currently in use by other agencies in the port. It does address the risk mitigation plan for the port, and it's noted somewhere deep in the paperwork that this is one of the few that addresses this particular initiative for the port operations.
Where is this modular fire station going to be built?
It'll be built in Sepulveda, right there at 101 to 405. Currently at Fire Station 88, we have 17 acres there.
Which one's okay, so I'm confused. What did you just say about the port?
The 2 projects that we have under the Port Security Grant Program.
Right.
The first is the Continuity of Operations Project, identifying 3 stations for the sustained power generation, above-ground fuel tank, communications capability, command post capability. So we have 3 stations in the port identified. The second port grant project is the radiation detectors for the fireboats.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Ms. Hahn?
No, so this is just more equipment. It doesn't really create jobs.
Well, that particular project is going to result in a services contract.
What does that mean?
That means that a vendor who's a contractor to the city, who has jobs in the area, is going to get the money. And so it's very likely that'll
So it's
support...
for services for emergency generator.
Oh, that. Those are...
I'm looking at the LAFD continuity of operations.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. That will result in construction jobs, electrical, plumbing, so the chances are good that that will, in fact, impact the area locally for jobs.
We hope so. How do we track that kind of stuff? How do we know that this is going to create jobs locally?
If you want to work on a motion where we require tracking of that kind of information, I think Mr. Parks did it at one point, and maybe we can take a look and make sure that that gets added on to our analysis post-awarding of a grant.
Right.
So we get the maximum benefit.
Right. Okay. That would be good.
No, I'd be happy to second anything you want to do on that, because it's important for us.
Yeah, we need to track that kind of stuff, because sometimes we think that's happening and it's not. Okay.
Thank you. I think that concludes all your fire items, am I correct?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, so let's see, we jumped around a bit. Let me just check to make sure where we pick up again. Just a second. Okay, our first item that we go back to is F, and that is a port-wide fiber optics project. All right. Your name?
Good morning. Captain John Holmes, Director of Operations for the Port of Los Angeles. And there are actually 3 port grant items, and if you'd like, I can take them in order. And
Yeah, give me the numbers. I know you have 2, I see 2 in here.
F,
Okay.
item F, item H, and item J.
Okay, great. That's fine.
So we'll start with, first of all, to preface this, these are port security grants. They are not matching grants, i.e. they don't require any matching money from the port. So these are unique in that most of the port security grants up to this point have required a minimum of a 25% match. So these grant items require no match. The first item, which would be item F, is actually the second phase of a larger project, which is installation of a fiber optic network. The first phase of the project was an $8 million project, which provided the general network loop around the port, and then this is a second phase which connects all of the terminals and all of the port users, law enforcement, and other port users. And this network will be used as we expand our security systems, in particular our camera systems. We currently have 300 cameras. As we build out the terminals, and as we have 2 public projects under construction, the fiber optic networks will be used to connect our camera and security systems so that we have a real port-wide network. The total for the grant is $6 million, and as I say, this would be the second phase of a project that's currently under construction.
Okay. All right.
Is it this one?
Ms. Hahn, do you have any questions on this?
So is this F? Which one are we on? F or J?
Port-wide fiber optics project. Yeah.
Okay, so the funds will be used for equipment and construction contract? And
Actually, most of this contract is a construction contract. The fiber is really the only equipment. The construction to bury the fiber throughout the port, it creates approximately 100 construction jobs.
And where are we getting those folks from?
I anticipated you'd ask that question.
That's good.
For instance, this would be one of those, and I know we have to work with existing, unions who provide this kind of work, but I know for a fact in Watts right now, in fact, Sweet Alice has a program where she trains people to lay and install fiber optics. I mean, it's a skill, it's job training. How can we connect on a job like this with people who are just beginning to learn this trade of laying fiber optic cable.
And I think this is one of the areas
This would be great. I mean, this would be...
work with your staff, and
this would be great.
since we haven't gone out for the contract yet, we could stipulate a local hire, or we could stipulate, as we have in many of the
Right.
contracts, we work with you at risk or whatever
Yes,
you want.
because I know that this program has existed. We're training people in low-income areas to learn how to install fiber optic. This would be such a great opportunity, and again, I know we have to work with existing building trades and see who actually lays this fiber, but this would be a great opportunity. Let's work together to see if we can hire some of the people that have been trained to do this actual job.
Okay.
Then I could really stand up and cheer that we're stimulating the economy.
And I'm sure we'd be happy to do
Okay.
that.
All right.
And the second item, which is item H,
Yes.
which is...
Electrical power distribution system.
It consists of two particular projects. One is installing emergency generator equipment at the port building, and I think you're probably hearing sort of a common thread with our colleagues from the fire department. We've had a very robust effort, supported and largely led by the councilwoman, to make sure that the port can not only respond to an incident, but can get itself back up and operating as quickly as possible. So one of the things we've tried to do is take a look at it and see where we need to have the capabilities to provide at least emergency power, and then also working with DWP to manage the power coming into the port, because we can have the best recovery plan in the world, or business reconstitution plan, but basically if we don't have electricity, none of our terminals operate. So this particular project does two things. One is it installs emergency generators at port facilities to make sure those have continuity of operations, and the other is a power management system working with DWP to make sure that if we have power needs, we can anticipate and manage the needs and make sure that we can get power to the port in the event we have an incident and we want to get operations up and running. So this is all about protecting our infrastructure and making sure that this economic engine of the port isn't sitting idle if an event occurs. So that is a $4 million grant. As I say, it's no match. It's a grant that we've been working with Department of Water Power to identify the best way to do this.
Okay. Questions on that one? All right, I think your next item is J.
Next item, J, is actually an expansion of our wireless voice and data interoperability network.
Can I just go back to the last one again? I was just
Sure.
looking, it says that you're creating 69 jobs from that last one?
Yes.
What kind of jobs are those, and who will have those jobs?
Very similar to what you heard from the fire department. It's basic electrical, some construction, there's a computer system and hardware involved in the power management. So there's some basic construction and some, I would say, technology jobs involved in that. 69. And again, certainly with respect to the construction part and the installing of the generators, we'd be happy to work with your office and and identify some parameters that we want to put into the contract.
Great. Thank you, John.
Okay, we were back on J.
And the last one is another technology project, although it is basically, to a large extent, a construction project, which is to build out our wireless voice and data systems at the port, not only for our port police, but also for the other law enforcement agencies. This will be compatible with what they're doing with the LA RICS project, communication project. But it's basically beefing up our wireless communication infrastructure. And again, although it is a technology project, it does have a lot of basic erecting towers, construction, putting up equipment, which is something that in most cases when we do a project like this, we'll have a lead contractor, and most of the construction work will be done by, and is usually done by, a local company, and we could establish some parameters with your office as to what we'd like to have.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That is for F, H, and J. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and let me just flip, we jumped out of order, so let me just make sure we haven't missed anything and then see what's left. Okay, we jumped to K, which is the Harbor Police Pistol Range Improvement. This is a harbor item.
Good morning, Councilman.
There he is. Long time no see.
It's been a while, sir. I'm Billy Hayes. I'm the commanding officer of Harbor Division, and I'm here to speak to the harbor range improvements. What has happened is we're looking at a range that's been over 40 years old, and as a result of Cal OSHA requirements, has been forced to close 2/3 of the range, so that only one portion of the range is operational, in which qualifications to meet police officer standards for California are done monthly by both Los Angeles Police Department personnel from South Bureau, Pacific Division from the Councilman's Office, Port Police, U.S. Air Marshals, and LA Fire Department arson personnel. The range, as I said, is currently only using 1/3 of the range. What we've done is we've gone through part of the port as the Port Area Maritime Security Committee, and been on the subcommittee that vets it through, and they've agreed that this is one that is reasonable. What we're looking at is $1.5 million, $500,000 is for the design of it, and $1 million in construction to repair and bring up the range to Cal OSHA standards, bringing it up so that we would have at least 16 positions available on the range for those qualifications. There are no matching funds. It would create approximately 50 jobs. We would work through the councilwoman's office to see if we could get local people that are untrained and bring them into it.
It's working. Okay, good. Thank you.
Let me ask a question. One of the things that I think that the public was very disappointed in was the policy that somehow changed that we would not allow public. There's a gun club in San Pedro that was used to have use of the range, and then suddenly that was taken away. Does this, if we get it back up to standards, would we then open it up again to public?
That would be a reasonable expectation. The problem that happened, Councilwoman, is Cal OSHA came in, and two of the sides, the east and west ranges, did not meet the Cal OSHA standards for baffling and that stuff. So we were only left with 8 lanes open for qualifications. With this, we could open it up on the days that that it's closed to police qualifications, and open it back up to the public on those days.
I mean, that would be my, Madam Chair, that would be my friendly amendment to approving this. If these are federal stimulus dollars, public money, then I would want to see this range open back up to the public as it used to be before this happened. So that would be my amendment to approving this grant.
And we would have no objections to that. Like I said, the reason it was closed was because it didn't meet the standards.
I remember that, but I've heard complaints about that, for a long time. I'm not a big fan of people having guns in the first place, but if they're going to have them, there should be a legitimate place for them to practice.
I'll put a second on that amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us, I believe, to item 2, which is the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Come on up, and while you're coming up, let me call up, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, it's Hai Pin Lim? Hai Pin Lim? We'll let her speak first. There's only one card, and then we'll go to the staff report. Please proceed, ma'am. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Hai Pin Im, and I'm with Korean Churches for Community Development, and I'm here this morning on behalf of the KCCD Consortium to ask for your support of our submission for the NSP2 grant as well. And I'm here with Grace Barr to answer any specific questions. Our organization has, and the members of our consortium has been an active force in revitalization and restoration of our local neighborhoods impacted by foreclosure. Most recently, we received our award called the President's Award by our National HUD intermediary for having the highest achievement in helping foreclosed families with over 1,700 individuals out of 80 affiliates. And our home ownership program has also been equally successful. Our application that we are targeting in terms of the target area are...
Okay, your time is up, so...
I'm sorry?
If you, public speakers have 2 minutes. Did you want to conclude?
Could I have 2 minutes? Could she have 2 minutes then?
You have her fill out a speaker card, and then I'll call her up after the staff presentation, but it's 2 minutes. Okay. You can get a speaker card from either one of the officers on either side. He's coming forward to you now. Okay, Ms. Chavez. And I also want to say before we get started in this item, and if anybody is here from HACLA, I hope they are here, because it's come to my attention that HACLA is asking their commission right now to have authority to apply for NSP2 funds, and if HACLA applies, their application will be competing against our own city housing application. We don't have any information on what HACLA is applying for or what they'll be using the funds for, and HACLA's never went through the Housing Working Group or the Council Ad Hoc Committee. So I'm going to tell you now and give you time to get here if you're listening, if no one's here. I'm going to ask this report be amended to clarify that the Housing Department is the lead agency for NSP2 and that it should be included in the committee report that Housing Department is the only city department who's authorized to apply for NSP2. And then if we don't get this done today, I'm going to tell HACLA, so you can hear on the council chamber phone, to do an informal presentation. Okay, he's here? All right. Well, why don't you come up here, too, because I'm going to ask you to do an informal presentation today after housing is done of their NSP2 work. And then I'm going to direct you to work directly with Councilman Wesson's office and schedule an informal notice report for Mr. Wesson's committee, which is HCED, but I don't like what I'm hearing, and I want to tell you that on the record, because we don't need any infighting as to who's on first, and I want to make it clear that I'm going to make sure we get the votes, that Housing Department is declared as the only agency who is authorized to apply for NSP2 funds, so I want this infighting and competition nonsense to stop. Okay, so Ms. Chavez, if you could please go ahead.
Good morning, Yolanda Chavez with the Housing Department. We are here this morning to request your authorization to submit a $100 million grant to HUD for neighborhood stabilization funds under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, or more commonly known as NSP2. As you know, under NSP1, the city received a formula-based allocation of $32.8 million. Unlike the formula-based allocation, this program, NSP2, is a competitive NOFA, and I would have to stress extremely competitive. We've been spending a lot of time preparing for this grant. Very much like NSP1, the requirements and eligibility for the money is very much the same. In terms of the goal is to stabilize neighborhoods by purchasing and rehabbing foreclosed and abandoned properties. The income limits and maximums have not changed. We must serve households at 120% or below. 25% of the funds must be used for households at 50% or below of AMI. There are some key changes, of course, in terms of the areas of greatest need. As you know, during NSP1, these areas were determined by HUD risk scores or factors. The HUD risk score for NSP2 has actually been strengthened, and the standard is much higher for eligibility of the areas. So we must use any grant or funds that we receive through this grant for the areas of greatest need based on this risk score. We gave you 2 additional maps. One one of the maps was already included in the transmittal, which shows all of the foreclosures for the 27-month period that we've been tracking foreclosures, January 2007 through March 2009. And as you can see, the clusters and patterns are very much have continued in terms of multifamily properties being in South LA or clustered in South LA. The second map is to give you a sense of how the eligible census tracts differ from NSP1. And if you look at the second map, which is titled NSP1 eligible and NSP2 target areas, you'll see that the gray areas are NSP1, and the yellow overlay are the eligible census tracts for NSP2. And as you will see, for NSP2, most of the areas overlay over South LA, just like NSP1. There are some new census tracts that qualify, but all of the new census tracts surround the current NSP1 eligibility area. In terms of the targeted outcomes for HUD, under this grant, they do require that the grantee demonstrate short-term and long-term outcomes, which include, of course, arresting the decline in home values, the reduction of foreclosed and abandoned properties, and, of course, increasing the residential sales in these targeted neighborhoods, as well as increasing the value of these homes in the long term. In terms of the program we're proposing, it doesn't differ from NSP1. I'm going to have Doug Swager, who's our Director of Homeownership Preservation and NSP, run through those two program components.
Before he does that...
Good morning. Doug Swager.
Hold on. Before he does that, I just want to say my colleague over here, Mr. Wesson, has a comment, and I think we can cut to the chase on this, as I've expressed my displeasure, I think pretty clearly. And Housing has done an excellent job under the Mercedes leadership model of documenting and leading us up to this day. There is no department that has the expertise that the Housing Department has. So, Mr. Wesson, why don't you go ahead and make your comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Personally, I don't see a need in us I'm trying to be as diplomatic as
Just
I
say
can.
it.
Wasting our time having a presentation from HACLA. We're requesting that they come to our committee on Wednesday where we will have their discussion. The only way that we as a city, a county, a state, a country are going to turn things around is when the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And there's no communication there, and that's disturbing that they would come up with this application with not even having any discussions with the office that oversees housing. So what I would recommend is that if there are questions for the Housing Department, and Ms. Perry, I share your thoughts where it relates to their capabilities as well.
Which is very high.
And like I said, I echo those sentiments. What I think we should do is on Wednesday we'll have a hearing where we'll have HACLA, and let's just, if there are questions for the Housing Department, of course they should be asked today. But I am not in favor of affording them the opportunity to come here and give a presentation when they didn't give us pre-notice or have discussions with the Housing Department.
Thank you, Mr. Wesson. I second your request, and I think we should bring HACLA into your committee, and I agree with you. And again, please recognize that I think we all believe that Housing has done an excellent job, and as part of this action today, Housing should be the only agency designated to go for MSP2, and that needs to stop, okay? It needs to stop, because it just ends up hurting our chances for being awarded money. I'm not sure, unless other members have questions. Do you need? Okay. We're fine. Ms. Kim, Ms. M, you've already spoken for 2 minutes on item 2, so we'll ask Ms. Barr to come up for 2 minutes. Grace Barr, did you want to come and speak for 2 minutes on this? You put in a speaker card, so now would be the time for you to come in and speak to the podium. And thank you to the staff. You did an excellent job. Just keep doing it. And gentlemen from Hackler, we'll see you next week in Mr. Wesson's committee. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Barr. You have 2 minutes.
Grace Barr, representing KCCD, representing Korea Church Community Development Group. We're a nonprofit, and we're in the process of applying for an NSP2 grant. And our goal is to help the community to restore the neighborhood. We're very focused in the Koreatown area and the surrounding. In the south of our neighborhood, which is south of I-10, there's an area that's very, very economically depressed. And we're targeting those areas. Our goal is to provide housing for low-income families, and our strength is in marketing and rehab those houses, and we work hand-in-hand with local churches. We have a strong network of churches, and we're very proud of that we could contribute to this program, NSP2, and we'd like to ask for support for the council in the next 4 months in the process of application. We'd like to answer your questions and comments here, and I'd like to ask your support.
Well, we got a lot of them.
Are you concluded? Have you finished?
Driven by channel.
Okay, thank you. To see if we can get the 1 minute back, because
Everybody gets 2 minutes. You're free to speak to Yolanda Chavez here on the side. She can talk to you. She's from the Housing Department about your questions.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? If not, we are going to continue item 2 because it will go to Mr. Wesson's committee next week, Housing, Community, and Economic Development. And I want to thank everybody for their participation. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Great.
Help me move up.
Step Up on Second has been working with the homeless population since 1984.
We provide here at Step Up and all of our other future housing projects a permanent supportive housing. That means it's permanent, that it doesn't go away, people can stay the rest of their life, and it's supportive, that it's connected with supportive services. So if you walked in a unit, you would see something that looks like a college dorm room. It's about 300 square feet, it's a small efficiency, it has a bathroom, and then one room which has a small kitchenette, a bed, and a small living area. And since these units target homeless individuals, to have a modest space is actually a very good thing.
Housing is rent subsidized through the federal government, and residents are required to pay 1/3 of their income. In addition to housing, it's a place that also teaches independent living skills.
So I went from helplessness, hopelessness, homelessness to housing.
Jacob, a resident of Step Up on Second, gives back by helping homeless individuals understand how to get back on their feet and appreciate life.
Work means so much to people with mental illness. Work is a measure of self-esteem for a person, and so maybe I can't work, but I can facilitate groups.
People do treat you differently when you're on the streets. But the important thing is what are you doing? Which way are you headed? What road are you on? And that's what Step Up does for us every day, is to help us in that area.
Step Up on Second has helped individuals like Les find a way to utilize their talent.
Something that's brand new that I'm a part of, it's called the Learning Center. And I kind of built this, or should I say I'm building it. And it is a place where people can come and study formal education.
While Step Up on Second helps individuals, Upward Bound House, a social services agency, assists families. They have been running Family Place, a 21-unit facility for families in a residential neighborhood.
Most people, when they think about homelessness and shelters, think about the chronic homeless. They don't think about families with children.
Statistics indicate over 10,000 children under the age of 18 lack the safety and stability of a home. At Upward Bound House, they find a place to call home. But families have to prove they are willing to make the change.
We do background checks, we do criminal checks. We're a clean and sober facility, so families have to demonstrate that they've been clean and sober for at least a year. If there's mental illness, they have to be med compliant.
While the program is free, families must meet certain requirements.
We don't charge rent, we don't charge for any of our services. Our program is free for our clients. But what we do require is that our families are employed, the parents are employed, and that they save a minimum of 75% of their monthly income into an account we help them set up at First Federal Bank. And a typical family is with us between 6 and 9 months, where we help them stabilize, we provide case management, education and counseling, and actually we provide placement into permanent housing as well.
Upward Bound opens doors for families and single parents. It has seen a 95% success rate of families remaining in permanent housing at least a year later.
I think one of the things that makes Upward Bound House so unique is that we serve an entire intact homeless family. Unlike many other agencies where they'll separate an adult male from women and children, we believe it's critical to keep the family unit intact during this crisis period. So we actually will have intact families that we serve, and in fact we'll also have single dads with minor children that we serve here as well.
While institutions are there to provide support, individuals recognize nothing should be long-term.
Do not get comfortable, because when you get comfortable, you get in that satisfied mode. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't need nothing else. Shelters are temporary. They're not permanent housing.
Nobody's going to walk up to you and ask you, are you homeless? Well, let me tell you what you should do. You got to have an inside track. And that's what I had.
What ends up happening is that whenever there's an incident, they get taken to General Hospital. A hospital stay on an emergency basis will cost the public $10,000, $15,000, $30,000. For $30,000, you can probably house 2 or 3 households for a year. And so the provision of housing and services in housing will dramatically cut the cost of providing the services for the homeless.
Many feel homelessness is a societal issue that can be addressed with the help of the community. At some level, we can all participate to make a difference.
The solutions will come from all of us. Some are simple, a place to sleep. Some are a job. But psychiatric work is necessary for some. Drug and alcohol addiction counseling is also necessary. But we have to start somewhere.
I think there's a lot of ways for the community to get involved, and I think one of the broader things is to help reincorporate and reintegrate families and homeless people into a community. And that involves volunteerism, that involves reaching out and participating in that process of families becoming reincorporated into their communities.
They tend to think that addressing the needs of homeless in a neighborhood attracts crime, attracts violence, and really it doesn't. If you look at the well-run social service facilities that we have in the city, they're very stable, and they are positive contributors to the community.
Venice resident Bill Nicolo has taken up the cause on his own. He has been working with the homeless community for the past 7 years as Bill the Barber.
I was not a barber, I was not trained as a barber, but I taught myself how to do it. And I figure over the last 10 years, the 7 years I've been doing it, I've probably given about 15,000 haircuts. I give, on the average, 20 haircuts a day.
Bill now has 2 people who also help him. But the experience has been a learning process, and one that has helped him understand the homeless community.
The homeless whom I deal with and whom I know, some of whom I know extremely well, are not the same as some of the people that merchants have a problem with, and that some of the residents have a problem with. The people I work with, for the most part, are more sociable than some of the other homeless. They are people who are willing to come out and be around other people in order to get food or in order to get a haircut.
From Bill's perspective, the haircut is more than just grooming and provides a sense of communal belonging.
It's not just the haircut. A lot of it is about the bench. Usually do it on a bench, and everybody gathers around. People are waiting for their haircut, and the conversations that go on are they're very open, and they're very friendly, and there's a lot of joking going on. And so people, even after they get their haircut, they'll just hang around.
And when it comes to advocating rights,
they live here as much as we do. The air belongs to them. The ocean, they should have just the same accessibility to the beach as anybody else.
Carol Bolander, another Venice resident, feels more needs to be done for the homeless.
I think that this is a historical problem. This means that our city fathers have not been taking care of the people for many years, probably since they closed the mental health facilities. I think that there needs to be a conscious effort to provide wraparound housing and services for the homeless.
She feels the lack of housing is leaving many to stay in their RVs.
I think the city has so long not been taking responsibility for the problems.
And the city is working to make changes.
We're in the process of working on one location where we'll put 50 homeless people with permanent services to give them a shot at coming out of the darkness. We'll hook it into Chrysalis, a great community group that provides job opportunities. We're looking for more housing for low-income people.
The problem is definitely one that needs to be addressed, whether on a personal level or city level. But one thing is clear, understanding the cause and resolving it with a solution. And as members of society, we can all do something to bring about a change.
There are many ways that people in the community can help, and I know for us and every other nonprofit organization, having the community support us in whatever way makes sense to them is essential to our success.
It's enriched my life in ways I can't even begin to enumerate.
Come down here sometime and just mingle. And don't take what you see as all it is.
It goes a long way to helping them get back on that path to success.
There are some amazing people residing in this community. The only thing that's wrong is that they're poor.
Once we bond with people who don't have much going for them, that gives them a sense of hope, and it gives us a sense of purpose. We all can be part of the solution of homelessness.
If I can love you like I love me, I think the world will be a better place.
Homelessness. It's not their issue, but an issue that affects all of us.
by City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.